My name is Emma, 31, and 3 weeks ago, I learned how much my family valued me. Thanksgiving, Mom stood up, started handing out gifts. Dad got a fishing rod, Aunt got wine, brothers got watches. I waited. When the bag was empty, I asked, "Is there one for me?" She didn't hesitate. "Be grateful you're allowed at this table." Uncle laughed. "Be glad we still remember your name." The whole table erupted. I felt my face burn. But I nodded, said, "Good to know." No tears, no yelling. I left early, drove back to Seattle, decided something was going to change. Because 2 weeks later, those same people pounded on my door, begging me to talk. If you've ever been the family ATM who got treated like a joke, stay with me. When I got back to Seattle that night, I dropped my keys on the counter, put the pie I'd baked in the trash, and just sat on my kitchen floor, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to text the family group chat, tell them exactly how they'd humiliated me. But I knew how that would go. "You're being dramatic. It was just a joke. Be grateful we invited you." So instead, I texted Riley, my best friend. She called within seconds. I told her everything. The fake smiles, Mom's line about being grateful I was allowed, Uncle's jab about remembering my name. Long silence. Then Riley said very calmly, "Em, that's not normal. That's not rude. That's cruel. They don't respect you at all." Hearing someone else say it made something click. I pulled up my banking app while we were still talking, started scrolling. Gym membership, charged every month. Streaming services under my name that I barely used because I was always working. Amazon Prime family plan, concert tickets, last-minute Ubers. "Can you just put it on your card? I'll pay you back." That never happened. It hit me. For years, I'd quietly been the invisible financial backbone of that close-knit family they loved posting about online. They could sit there making jokes about me, but had no problem letting my card run like I was their personal ATM. Riley said, "What if you just stopped paying? What if you let them feel what it's like to actually lose you?" The idea scared me and thrilled me. That weekend, I made a list. Mom's yoga membership, Dad's golf club dues, streaming subscriptions, my brother's last-minute concert tickets and bar tabs, every autopay that had my name attached to their comfort. Then, I started canceling. Click, cancel membership. Click, turn off auto renewal. Click, remove card. With every confirmation email, I felt lighter. I didn't announce it in the group chat. I just let the systems they depended on quietly stop. A few days later, Mom called during my lunch break. No hello, just, "Emma, my yoga studio says my card was declined. Did something happen?" I swallowed my nerves. "Yeah, I canceled it. You'll need to set it up yourself." She sounded offended. "You know I go to those classes for my health. I count on that." "You also know what you said to me at dinner," I replied. "I'm done paying for people who laugh at me like that." She gasped, like I'd slapped her. Dad called that night. The streaming wasn't working. "You must have messed something up. he complained. I didn't mess anything up, I said. I just stopped paying. You're adults. Handle your own bills. Silence. Then he snapped. Family takes care of each other, Emma. Exactly, I said. That goes both ways. After that, the group chat exploded. Passive-aggressive messages about some people forget where they came from and money isn't everything, but some folks think it is. I muted it. For the first time in my life, I chose not to play the role they'd written for me. I thought they'd sulk, talk trash about me, eventually move on. I underestimated how much they depended on me, not just for money, but for control. The first real wave hit a few days after I canceled everything. My phone started buzzing nonstop. The family group chat lit up like a fire alarm. Mom sent a long paragraph about people who forget who raised them and how she was deeply hurt that I'd attack her health by canceling the gym. She made it sound like I'd taken away prescription medication, not turned off a membership billed to my card. Dad followed with his usual lines. You wouldn't have your fancy job in Seattle if it weren't for us. Like my degree was an unpaid bill. My brothers jumped in. One wrote, "Imagine choosing Netflix over your own mom." Ironic, considering I'd canceled Netflix too, and they used it way more than I ever did. The other sent, "You've changed so much. You used to be nice," followed by crying emoji and a broken heart. I stared at the chat, felt my chest tighten, hit mute again. 10 minutes later, Riley sent me screenshots from Instagram. My younger brother had posted a black screen with white text. Some people will cut off their own blood over money. Remember who was there before your paycheck. Mom commented underneath, "So sad but true. Love you, baby. Some people lose their way." Cousins replied, "Family over everything. Money can't buy loyalty." People change when they move to the city. They were rewriting the story in real time, turning themselves into victims, me into some cold-hearted villain who'd abandoned them for a skyline view. None of them mentioned Mom telling me to be grateful I was allowed at the table. None of them talked about Uncle making my name a punchline. I locked my phone. Just sat there, listening to office keyboards clicking. I realized I'd spent my whole life terrified of being called ungrateful, so I kept overgiving to prove I wasn't. And here I was, finally saying no, and they were slapping that exact label on me anyway. That night, instead of crying, I opened my laptop at my kitchen table, went back to my banking app. If they wanted to talk about sacrifice, fine, we could talk numbers. I pulled up 5 years of transactions, started filtering. Gym, streaming services, Amazon Prime Family Plan, concert tickets with notes like, "For Jake and friends," emergency car repairs, "Uncle couldn't afford," that landed on my card. "I'll get you back when my bonus hits." Never happened. Restaurant bills where I picked up the check because you make more than us, it's no big deal. With every line item I highlighted, I remembered the exact moment I'd swallowed my resentment and smiled. I copied everything into a spreadsheet, added dates, descriptions, color-coded categories, watched the total climb higher and higher until I had to sit back and stare. This wasn't generosity. This was a pattern. Years of being the safety net whenever someone forgot their wallet or couldn't pay till Friday. I drafted an email, subject line, "Since we're talking about who owes what." In the body, I wrote plainly, "I was grateful for a roof and food growing up. I wasn't pretending I raised myself, but the idea that I owed them endless financial support and blind tolerance, that wasn't accurate, and it wasn't healthy. Then I pasted the spreadsheet total, a breakdown by category. I didn't call them thieves. I didn't demand repayment. I simply wrote, "If you want to keep insisting I'm ungrateful and selfish because I stopped paying, please look at this and ask yourself who has actually been taking care of whom." My hands shook when I hit send, heart pounding like I jumped into cold water. But it also felt like dropping a weight I'd been carrying for years. Mom's reply came fast. All caps subject line. "How dare you?" The body was a wall of text. Called my list manipulative and cruel. Said only a heartless person would throw money in her parents' faces. She turned every example into a story about how hard things had been for them. Accused me of trying to put a price on her love. She ended with, "I'm so ashamed of who you've become." Then she blocked me on Facebook. I know, because Riley texted me a screenshot an hour later. Mom had posted a generic family quote image. "Family is forever, even when some members forget," with a long caption about staying strong during these trying times and being thankful for the children who still honor their parents and understand true loyalty. Likes and comments rolled in. "You're such a good mom. Don't let anyone tear your family apart." None of those people knew every one of her comforting Netflix nights had been paid for by the daughter she'd humiliated at dinner. I lay in bed that night, angry, shaking. But under the anger, strange clarity. They weren't going to wake up one day and suddenly see me differently. They were invested in this version of me, the difficult, ungrateful city daughter who owed them everything. The only thing I could control? What I gave them access to. My money, my time, my energy, my silence. As Christmas crept closer and their comforts kept shutting off, the tone changed. Passive-aggressive posts became fewer. Calls became frantic. Guilt trips turned into panic. They stopped just sniping online and started scrambling in real life. That's when their entitlement boiled over into something much louder, much uglier. The kind of desperation that doesn't stay on screens, but shows up right outside your door. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I was in my apartment on a Saturday afternoon, half watching YouTube, trying not to think about family at all. The buzzer rang. I thought it was a delivery, but I hadn't ordered anything. Then my phone lit up. Dad's name. I let it go to voicemail. Mom started calling, then the buzzer again. Longer this time, like someone leaning on it. My stomach dropped. I walked to the intercom, pressed the button just enough to hear. Mom's voice echoed up through the stairwell, loud, shrill. "Emma, we know you're home. Buzz us in." Fake cheerful tone with pure anger underneath. I checked the peephole. A couple minutes later, I saw them, Mom and Dad, standing outside my door, clearly having sweet-talked some tenant into letting them in. Mom held a shiny gift bag, tissue paper bursting out. Dad had smaller bags hooked on his wrist. My phone started ringing again. I let it ring. Mom knocked. 3 light taps. "Emma, honey, open up. We brought you something. We just want to talk before Christmas." I walked closer, didn't unlock the door. "I don't want to talk right now," I said through the wood. "You need to leave." The switch in her voice was instant. Fake sweetness cracked. She knocked harder. "We drove 5 hours to be here, Emma. 5 hours. The least you can do is open the door." Dad chimed in, already annoyed. "This is ridiculous. We're not doing this through a door. Open it." "No," I said. "You don't get to humiliate me, mock me, then show up with gift bags like that fixes anything. You need to go." Pause. Then the knocking turned to pounding. Mom's voice rose, shaky, dramatic. "Do you hear yourself? This is what that city has done to you. You think you're better than us now?" She started sniffling loudly. "Our family is falling apart and you don't even care." Dad lowered his voice, but I could still hear the anger. "This is about respect, Emma. You owed us a chance to talk in person." I almost laughed. Considering what started this was them making fun of me in front of everyone. "Respect goes both ways," I said. "Standing outside my home trying to force a conversation I said no to is not respect." My phone buzzed. My younger brother calling. When I didn't pick up, he texted, "They're outside your door. Just open it. Don't make this worse. Mom's freaking out." I typed back, "They showed up uninvited. That's on them." Through the door, Mom raised her voice. "We brought you Christmas gifts, Emma. We didn't forget you. We're trying. This is what you wanted, right? Attention?" It was almost funny how she twisted it. "I didn't want any of it," I said. "You're not fixing anything with gifts. You never even apologized for what you said." For laughing at me. Beat of silence. Then Mom snapped. "Oh my God, are you still on about that? It was a joke, Emma. A joke. Normal people can take a joke." Dad added, "You're blowing one comment out of proportion and punishing the whole family." That was the moment I knew. There was nothing for me on the other side of that door. I texted Mom, "You have 10 minutes to leave or I'm calling building security." Out loud, I said, "You need to go. I'm serious." The pounding stopped, then came back even louder. Mom's voice cracking. "We need to talk. Open up. Please don't do this to your mother." My heart raced, but I didn't move toward the lock. I just stood there, staring at the doorknob, repeating in my head, "You're allowed to say no." After 20 minutes of knocking, crying, pleading, they finally left. A neighbor emailed later through the building portal, politely asking if everything was okay, mentioning the very loud scene. I sat on my couch afterward, shaking. I opened a note on my phone, started typing exactly what had happened, every word they said, every feeling in my chest. I didn't want them to gaslight me later into thinking I'd imagined it. The more I wrote, the clearer it became. This wasn't about one dinner or a few subscriptions. This was about control. They weren't used to me having boundaries, and they weren't handling the word no very well. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. A few days before Christmas, I came home with groceries, saw their car outside. Stomach dropped. When I turned onto my floor, Mom, Dad, and Uncle were standing in front of my apartment, like a blockade. "There she is," Mom said loudly. "Do you feel proud calling security on your own parents?" I set the bag down, kept my keys in hand. "You're not supposed to be here. You need to leave." Dad said they weren't leaving. that they'd driven all that way, that I owed them a conversation. Mom went on about trying to save the family while I hid in my little box. Uncle leaned on the wall, smirking. "You don't just cancel blood," he said. "Blood doesn't give you the right to show up after I told you to stop," I replied. Mom scoffed, accused me of twisting everything and making them sound abusive. Dad stepped closer until my door was at my back. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You're coming home with us for Christmas. This stunt ends now." My voice shook. "No, I've told you to leave. You're harassing me." Mom slammed her palm into the door next to my head, so hard I jumped, yelling about everything they'd given me, how I owed them. Uncle saw me flinch, smiled, put his hand on my shoulder, trying to push me away from the lock. Something in me went very still. I shrugged off his hand, said loud and clear, "Do not touch me again." I pulled out my phone, called building security. "My family is here again. I told them to leave. They won't. One of them put his hands on me. I need someone up here." They stared at me like I'd set the building on fire. The guard came up, listened to both sides, turned to them. "She lives here. She's asked you to leave. You can't keep coming here causing scenes. If you come back, we'll involve the police." He walked them to the elevator while Mom cried and Dad muttered. Uncle threw one last look, said under his breath, "You're going to regret this." Later, management slid a notice under my door, documenting the incident, stating they weren't allowed back without permission. Repeated visits could mean a no trespass order, and police. For the first time, there was something on paper saying this wasn't just family drama. Other people saw it. Other people were willing to call it what it was. I wanted to believe that warning would be enough, but people used to control don't usually give it up because of one piece of paper. One afternoon before Christmas, I was coming up the stairs with groceries. Heard it. My last name echoing in the stairwell. Mom's voice, sharp, too loud. "She's on this floor! Emma, get out here right now!" When I turned the corner, there they were again. Mom, Dad, Uncle, standing in the middle of the hallway. Mom spun toward me. "There you are! Do you feel powerful now?" I set my bag down, kept keys in hand. "You're not supposed to be here. You need to leave." "We're not leaving," Dad said. "Not until you talk to us like an adult." Mom jumped in, voice rising. "We're fighting for this family. You cut us off. You humiliate us. You call security. We gave you everything." I felt doors crack open along the hall. Uncle stepped closer. "You think these people care about you more than we do? When your big city life falls apart, you think they'll take you in? Blood is blood." "Blood isn't a free pass," I said. "It doesn't give you the right to show up at my home, to yell at me, corner me, or put your hands on me." Mom scoffed. "No one put their hands on you. You twist everything." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my older neighbor in her doorway, phone up, recording. Our eyes met. She gave me a tiny nod. "I see this." Dad stepped closer. Back hit my door. "Here's what's happening," he said. "You're packing a bag, coming home. We're working this out. This ends now." Hands shaking, but my answer came out clear. "No, I'm not going anywhere. I've told you to leave. You keep coming back. You are harassing me." Mom slapped her hand against the door, right next to my head. Loud crack. I flinched. "Harassing?" she hissed. "We gave you life. You owe us respect. You owe us presents at Christmas." Uncle saw me flinch, smiled, put his hand on my shoulder, shoved just enough to move me from the lock. Message: we still control you. I knocked his hand away. "Do not touch me again." Before he could respond, my neighbor's voice cut through. "I'm calling the police. This is the second time. She asked you to leave. I'm recording all of it." Everyone froze. Mom whipped around, yelled, "This is none of your business. This is family." My neighbor didn't flinch. "You made it our business when you started yelling in the hallway." I could hear sirens, faintly, getting closer. Mom turned back, switching to that broken, manipulative tone. "Emma, stop this. Tell them it's fine. You want your uncle arrested? You want your mother to have a heart attack? Is that what you want for Christmas?" My chest tightened. For a heartbeat, I felt that old reflex to fix everything. Then I remembered the spreadsheet, the dinner table, the way they laughed. I took a breath. "I want you to leave," I said. "If you didn't want police involved, you shouldn't have come back." 2 officers walked down the hall minutes later, taking in the scene. One looked at me. "Do you live here?" "Yes, they're my family. I've asked them to leave multiple times. Security escorted them out once. They keep coming back. They've put their hands on me. I don't feel safe." My voice shook, but I got it out. The other officer checked with my neighbor. She showed them the clip. Uncle grabbing my shoulder, Mom slamming her hand by my head. That was enough. First officer turned to my family. Tone hardened. "You need to leave the property now. You've been warned before. This is harassment. If you come back or contact her like this again, she can pursue a restraining order and charges." Mom started sobbing. Dad argued about his rights as my father. Uncle muttered about soft cops. The officers didn't care. They pulled Uncle aside, took his ID, wrote him a citation, explained exactly what it meant. He stood there, red-faced, while the officer told him he was officially on record for harassing his niece. Watching that man, the one who'd laughed at me my entire life, stare at the ground while someone in authority told him he was the problem, did something to me. For once, I wasn't the one being shamed. After they left, management confirmed the incident in writing, stated my parents and uncle weren't allowed back without permission, reminded me I could pursue a restraining order. A cousin texted, "People are talking. I saw a video of your mom yelling in your hallway. You okay?" I replied, "I'm okay. Better than before." For the first time, the consequences of their behavior were landing on them, not me. And as Christmas passed in total silence, that silence felt less like punishment, more like space. Space where I could finally imagine a life that wasn't built around managing their chaos. In the weeks after Christmas, the silence felt unreal. No Merry Christmas, no Happy New Year, not even a passive-aggressive quote. At first, it felt like standing in a room after a fire alarm cuts off. Bodies still braced for noise that wasn't there. Slowly, it started to feel like something else. Space. Through cousins and friends, I heard what was happening back home. Mom had to follow up after that ER visit. Her doctor said if she didn't manage stress, she was asking for serious problems. Without my money covering extras, she had to cut back. Had to learn how autopay actually worked. Dad had to call subscription companies himself, sit on hold, reset passwords. For once, figure things out without saying, "Ask Emma." Uncle's funny guy image took a hit. People had seen the video, the citation. Hard to play charming uncle when everyone knows cops got called on you. My brothers went quieter online. Fewer concert selfies, more posts about extra shifts and grinding. When I stepped back as their safety net, they had to stand on their own. That was the thing. My boundary didn't just make me grow up, it forced all of us to. Once the adrenaline faded, I crashed a little. With no new drama to distract me, all the old stuff floated up. I finally booked a therapist. First session, she asked, "When did you learn your role in the family was to fix everything?" I didn't have a neat answer, but the question sat with me. I also found support groups online, people with stories uncomfortably familiar, parents who weaponized guilt, relatives who used family as a leash, siblings who only reached out when they needed something. Reading their comments, I saw words I'd never let myself use for my situation: manipulation, emotional abuse, financial exploitation. It didn't change what happened, but it changed how I judged myself for walking away. Months later, Mom sent a short email. "I'm sorry things got so bad. I don't agree with how you handled everything, but I miss you. I hope you're okay." It wasn't the apology I wanted, but it was something. I didn't respond right away. When I did, I kept it simple. Told her I was okay, that I hoped she was taking her health seriously, that if we ever talked again, it would have to be different. No yelling, no guilt, no pretending Thanksgiving was just a joke. I said I was open to a conversation someday, preferably with a therapist present, but I would not go back to paying for everything and being grateful just to sit there. Hitting send didn't feel like reopening the door. It felt like locking it to the old version of us and leaving only a small, guarded window. I don't know what will happen with my family long term. Maybe we'll build something smaller and healthier. Maybe we'll stay low contact forever. What I do know, for the first time, my peace doesn't depend on their moods. I pay my own bills, for me. I spend holidays with people who don't turn me into a punchline and call it love. I no longer measure my worth by how useful I am to the people who raised me. If there's any lesson in this, it's that family is not a free pass to disrespect you. Love without respect is just control dressed up as concern. Boundaries are not betrayal. They're self-respect in action. And sometimes, the most satisfying revenge isn't slamming a door. It's walking away. Letting people finally feel the consequences of their own behavior. And building a life where you're not grateful just to be allowed in the room, but genuinely glad to stand on your own.